For 30 years, Johnny Carson was America's late-night confidant, welcoming over 22,000 guests to The Tonight Show couch. With that easy Midwestern charm and a deceptively gentle interview style, he made celebrities feel safe enough to loosen up, sometimes so much that they said more than they should. What truly set Carson apart wasn't only his knack for comfort. It was his almost spooky sense for spotting when a story didn't add up. The raised eyebrow, the half smile, the casually placed follow-up that made a contradiction speak for itself without ever using the word lie. Johnny had incredible radar for insincerity, recalled a longtime Tonight Show producer. He could tell when someone was embellishing, inflating their resume, or trying to edit their past. But his genius was in the way he handled it. Just enough pushback so the audience saw the truth. Never so much that the guest lost face. Today, we're revisiting 8 moments when Johnny's built-in lie detector quietly clicked on during live TV, where Hollywood spin ran into Carson's steady loyalty to reality. Some of these were playful, others uncomfortable, and all of them reveal the delicate dance between honesty and image. And we'll start with a Hollywood legend whose effort to shave years off his age ran into a simple arithmetic problem exposed by a single, offhand question. How old were you when you first came out? Tony: I was 20. I'm 47 and a half. Now. I was 20. Wait a minute, you sound like a kid. When a grown man says, I'm 47 and a half, I've never heard that before. Tony Curtis, the 1950s heartthrob who became a respected dramatic actor in classics, like Some Like It Hot and The Defiant Ones, arrived in the late 1970s looking as youthful as ever, and apparently keen to sound that way, too. Studio-era stars were often sold with doctored birth years, a habit most let go of later in life. Curtis kept pushing the date forward. During a casual chat about World War II, Curtis mentioned serving in the Navy. Carson, always precise with details, asked how old he'd been at the time. The number Curtis gave would have made him essentially a young teenager during wartime service. Mathematically impossible given the dates he'd just named. You could see Johnny's mental calculator flicker. The twinkle, the amused pause, the soft wait. How old were you again? Curtis stumbled, tried to recompute on air, and Carson simply let the impossibility linger with a smile. No accusation, just air, silence, and an audience doing the math. Later, Carson joked privately, Tony should know better than to talk about the war if he wants to keep pretending he's 8 years younger. If me and my husband goes back to Germany. First of all, Hungarians. Zaza Gaber's fame rested less on roles than on persona. European glamour, sharp wit, and persistent claims of Hungarian nobility. On one 1970s visit, she floated the royal line again, sprinkled with ornate details. Carson, smiling lightly, asked, is that a real title, or the Hollywood kind? The audience burst into laughter. Everyone knew exactly what he was gently nudging. Gaber, ever the showwoman, deflected with a breezy, Europe is different answer. Neither yes nor while Johnny's question did the quiet work. Backstage, he'd roll his eyes affectionately. If she's Hungarian royalty, I'm the king of Nebraska. It was Carson's standard playbook for harmless self-mythology. Acknowledge the fantasy, keep the guests comfortable, and let the truth glint through the charm. Through the 1960s and early 1970s, Truman Capote was a magnetic guest. Brilliant author, merciless gossip, compulsively watchable. But as his substance issues worsened in the late 1970s, one appearance turned painful. Capote arrived in rough shape, slurred, unsteady, and his publicist insisted he was just tired from touring. On air, Carson asked kindly if he felt all right. Capote said he was completely sober. Johnny knew the signs and the truth. As answers unraveled into mumbles and lost thoughts, Carson tried every rescue technique he had. It wasn't workable. He cut the commercial early. When the show returned, Capote was gone. The difference here was gravity. This wasn't age vanity or rum puffery. It was denial of a dangerous problem. Afterward, Carson drew a firm line. Capote wouldn't return until he got help. It was one of the few times the lie wasn't a joke. It was a warning. Known for intense roles, especially the TV series Beretta, Robert Blake also carried a reputation for volatility on set. In the late 1970s, Carson asked about it. Blake fired back. I've never yelled at a crew member. That's just gossip. Johnny said nothing, and made the face, raised brows, slight head tilt, faint smile. The audience roared. The message landed. The kicker, earlier that very day, Blake had barked at a Tonight Show stagehand. Carson wouldn't humiliate a guest, but his expression protected his crew and told viewers he wasn't swallowing the rewrite. After the show, he quipped privately about the irony. It became a staff favorite. Johnny saying everything while technically saying nothing at all. Personality all over the world. She's about to start a summer concert tour and is starring in a new movie. Not starting? I guess she's finished it, right? That would mean it's not starting. It's over. It's called Who's That Girl, which will be out in August. Would you welcome Madonna? By 1987, Madonna was the era's defining provocateur, controversial be those button-pushing performances, and a brand built on mixing sexuality and taboo. On The Tonight Show, she peppered the segment with innuendo that slammed into network boundaries of the time. Carson gently suggested she seemed intent on reeing the crowd. "I wasn't trying to shock anyone," she replied. "Why, Johnny, pure deadpan. Then you must do that in church, too." The audience erupted. It was a surgical pinprick. No scolding, just the obvious contradiction held up to the light. She never appeared on Carson's Tonight Show again. Johnny didn't mind edgy. He minded pretending the edge was accidental. Burt Reynolds and Carson were like jazz partners, riffing effortlessly through the 1970s and 1980s. One famous night, Reynolds launched a prank that ended with him smearing shaving cream on Johnny. When Carson, laughing and covered in foam, asked if this was planned, Reynolds swore, "This is all off the cuff. Totally spontaneous." Johnny reached into his desk, pulled out that night's rundown card, and read, "Burt hits Johnny with shaving cream." Laughter detonated. This was a different kind of fiction, the playful make-believe of show business where everyone, including the audience, knows the trick. The exposure was part of the bit, and both men leaned into the meta gag for maximum fun. Came on the stage, picked up a phone like this, and supposedly talked to my mother. A vaudeville star from an earlier era, George Jessel's humor, especially around race and ethnicity, hadn't evolved with the times. On an early 1970s appearance, a racially offensive joke landed with a thud. Carson, visibly displeased, noted the crowd's reaction. Jessel waved it off. "Everyone loves my material. People expect it from me." Johnny cut to commercial early. No punchline, no wink, just a firm, professional wall. Afterward, Jessel's name quietly disappeared from the booking sheet. Carson could tolerate vanity and showbiz puffery. What he wouldn't accept were fabrications used to justify material he found genuinely out of bounds. Crazy. What had a few drips? A few drips. "We going to do this right away? Let me do this. We're going to come back and talk and try." In the late 1970s, rock pioneer Chuck Berry was slated to perform. Earlier segments ran long, and a production assistant warned him about the delay. Berry smiled and said, "I'm totally fine waiting." Carson relaxed until Berry, simmering off stage, suddenly walked out of the building mid-show. The team had to plug a hole on live television. On air, Johnny kept things smooth. Backstage, it became legend. Whenever a guest later claimed to be okay with a delay, Carson would tease, "Is that okay?" Or, "Are Chuck Berry okay?" It wasn't merely an image fib, it disrupted the entire production. For Johnny, that crossed a different line. Honesty mattered, not just morally, but practically, so dozens of people could do their jobs. Across these 8 moments, you see Carson's code. He could be amused by harmless myth-making, especially when it was part of the act. He could be pointed, but still polite when someone tried to sell innocence after deliberate provocation. He could turn cool and protective when a guest demeaned staff or pushed offensive material. And when a lie threatened the machinery of the show, he remembered it. Carson's magic wasn't in shouting people down. It was in trusting the audience's intelligence. A glance, a pause, a single question placed like a mirror. The truth appeared, and the show stayed warm. That's why, for 30 years, the biggest stars came to talk, and why Johnny Carson still sets the standard for what a late-night interviewer can